Well, we had the planting delay video this spring, and today we're gonna have a harvest delay video for you. I'm starting oats harvest, and I had a video cancel on me early this week. We've been planning it out all week. They canceled on me at the very last minute, and I just haven't had time to reschedule. So we're gonna talk about oat harvest here. We're gonna talk about combines and my combines. I'll get my wife to sit down and talk with me. But this is my 1998 John Deere 9510 level land. And this is my 2002 John Deere 925F that I've got the sickle bolted up tight. Here she is. I like my combine. It's old, but I like my combine. I really enjoy small grain harvest. I like growing small grains. Obviously, it's not a huge part. I'm mostly corn and beans, but we've been going back to growing more small grains, and we treat oats like it's something we're growing, like a crop, and we're getting really good yields and got some beautiful oats. Pretty happy with them. You know, and maybe I'll show you guys the sample here. My phone battery's about to die, but after I get the truck full, I'll show you some more. And this is not some of my best ground, but it's some of the prettiest ground I got. I love this place. It's just a nice area, and I don't want to give too many clues to where I'm at. I don't need people coming up here. This is our little area. There's just a few people that know where this is, so yeah, I really enjoy this, and I always have, and we'll get into that. My wife and I will talk about that tonight. We'll talk about one of my favorite combines. Actually, I've liked all my combines. But yeah, look at the oats coming in. Maybe I could stop. I haven't calibrated it, but there, yeah, we got some 80s, upper 70s, where they're really good. They're 100 bushel oats. I'm excited about these oats. Like I said, I like oats. These are really good, and they're really heavy. And I suppose I should show you the Transtar. I love this truck. Move. I shouldn't have the cab door open. I don't need dust in here, but yeah, look at it. Really isn't that dusty. That tells me we got nice oats. For feed. They're almost too good for it, but next year I think we're selling oats for food, actually, is the plan. But a buddy of mine's got a nice dairy. They buy them for feed. They pay us what the feed mills are paying, so we do all right on them. I'm gonna get just a few more done. We'll top the truck off. So the Transtar here is a 1979 International Harvester 4070B Transtar 2. Obviously it was a semi converted into a tandem axle straight truck. And just pushing a little coolant out of there right now. Just got her warmed up after sitting all winter. So I really like this truck. It's the mid level. It's not an Eagle, but still a really cool truck. And I mentioned in that R&M Motors video that I really like old trucks, and so this is my fleet, the 1978 4070B Transtar 2, and this is my 1986 Peterbilt 359 extended hood, kind of my baby here, and it is a all original, and it is air leaf, 13 speed, 3406B, and it is a air-to-air 425 horsepower motor, first year of the air-to-airs, and it is really dusty from hauling grain, but I'll show you the interior. So she is all original. Alright, so let's talk about combines, but yeah, here's the Transtar. Alright, so we're in for the night, and I wanted to, once again, I hope you guys can handle these videos, because it'll happen occasionally. We do get busy, and something came up. Monday was supposed to be this week's tractor story, and they canceled on me last minute. I was on my way, and it was a pretty long drive. And this might happen, when we get really, really busy. But I'll try and make them as interesting as we can. And I like combines a lot, ever since I was a kid. And I thought, let's talk about some of my combine history. So the first combine I actually owned was a John Deere 30 pull-type combine that I got when I was probably, 13, 12 years old from a neighbor. I can't remember if he charged me $5 for it or something like that. And it worked. We did combine a little bit of oats with it. And then it broke the cylinder. The actual cylinder itself, the shaft, snapped on it. And then I bought a 975 from Don, and someday we'll talk about Don. But I spent a lot of time, I did in the video with my dad, I guess we talked about Don, but I bought a 975 New Holland from Don, and I never used it. So fast forward, that was in high school. Fast forward to 2005, when I went full-time dairy farming I went on my own in 99. And full-time dairy farming in 2002, where I actually quit my job, but I didn't have enough acres to raise all my feed, so I would buy shelled corn. Then in 2004, I bought this farm and I added acres, and I could raise everything. And I was all excited, because I'm like, I could hire my combining done, or I could buy a combine. And I ended up getting a combine, of course, because even if it would have been cheaper to hire it done, I was going to buy a combine because I could have a combine. And that combine was this one right here, 1978 John Deere 4400 diesel rotary screen. And I loved this combine, and I really looked forward to combining. In summertime doing my small grains, we could have chopped it for feed or something, but I enjoyed harvesting small grains. And I would, we'd swath, and I always had a hay crop with the oats or barley, whatever it was, but so I had a dummy head on it. But funny story, when I bought that combine in 2005, I went to look at it, and the girl I was dating at the time, I'm sorry, my wife is holding the camera here, went with me, and it was one of the rare occasions I got a milking off. I hired somebody to milk that night. It must have been like a date night, and I went to go look at a combine, and I remember how irritated she was about wrecking date night looking at that combine. So she left, and I kept the combine. And it was awesome, because it had a factory John Deere AM radio in it. And it was a 78 model, so it had shaft speed monitors, and it was rotary screen, of course, and it had the cloth seat and that factory AM radio. And I would listen to, during the daytime, either 8, was it? Well, the Mighty 920 KDHL out of Faribault, Minnesota, for all the egg stuff and polka music. Or 880, I believe, out of Menominee, Wisconsin, and egg stuff there. And listen to that during the daytime. And then at night, I used to milk 3 times a day, and I'd get done late at that night milking. When it was time for high moisture corn harvest, I would go out and combine at night, and it was late in the fall, and you'd have the heater on that cab, and you'd turn on that AM radio, and I would listen to WLS out of Chicago, would come in. I shouldn't have sold that combine. Like, I wish I had it just to have it. I think I paid $3,000 for it, and it was beautiful. It was a really nice shape. It had Hinneker grain extensions on it. And that combine, I never did anything to that combine except service it. But when I was 30, so 2008, that summer, that fall, I guess it was Labor Day, the Friday before Labor Day, I sold my dairy cows. And if I wasn't going to dairy farm anymore and I was going to be a crop farmer and combine a lot more, you can't have a 4400. You can't have a gear drive combine. Plus, I was going to be doing soybeans, so I needed something a little bit better. So that's when I bought, let's see, we got a few pictures of it. Horrible pictures. But my 1982 John Deere 6620 turbo level land hydro. And there might be another picture. No, there isn't. Oh, yeah, there is. And so that head on there, that's a 443 corn head. The 443 corn head came when I bought the 4400. So the 4400 didn't have a corn head on it. And I was looking for, I hired somebody to plant my corn for me back then. I had a friend that would plant with a 12-row for me. And obviously a 4400 won't run a 6-row head. And I was looking for a 443, and I used to have C-Mex and Select Sires breed for me. And the Select Sires guy that bred for me had a relief guy that was a big farmer that just kind of enjoyed cows, and he was kind of retired, and he would go breed cows. And I was telling him I was looking for a 443 head, and he says, I traded one in. And he goes, that head is in great shape. It wasn't pretty, but it was in really good shape. So I ended up buying that 443 head from him for the 4400. And then when I bought the 6620, obviously a 6620 was as big of a combine as you could get with that 443 head. And I ran that combine. Well, that was the combine when I met my wife. It was one of our first, technically that would be our first date. She came and rode in the combine with me. Remember that, Laura?
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, when I was looking for that 6620, I almost bought an IH combine. I was looking at 1460 and 1440 international combines. I don't have anything against Red Combine. I think they're great, but that head was so good. That 443 head was so good, and I couldn't, money was tight. I didn't want to upgrade. So that 443 was staying, and I could have got a Bish adapter for it. But rather than mess around and buy a Bish adapter, I could just buy a green combine and stick with that. So I started looking for 6620s. And, I was looking on like Machine Finder, Tractor House, and stuff like that. And I had a budget. I didn't have a lot of money. And that combine popped up on Tractor House in my search parameters of under like $9,000. and it was $7,500. That was the cheapest 6620 in the entire country. And I looked where it was. It was in New Richmond, Wisconsin, which is 45 minutes from us. We're south of that.
It's like fate.
Yeah.
It's your fate.
So I went up and bought that there, and it had like the upholstery, like the headliner was still John Deere, but the rest of the upholstery was carpet, like from a house. Somebody's 1970s carpeting was the upholstery in the 6620.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I
Do
drove.
you have like those little like ball things?
No,
Like
no, it
like
wasn't.
a van?
No, it wasn't like that, but it was pretty cool. And the brakes there were no brakes on that, but the hydro was pretty strong. I drove her all the way home from New Richmond, I remember, and it pulled all the hills, and I was like, well, that's great. But it was so worn out. Everything on that combine was worn out. It did all right for quite a while, and then '09, that fall, we were wet. We were really wet, and I got stuck, and it actually sheared the splines off of not just the hydro, but also the transmission. There's a coupler that goes in between them. It sheared that, but it took all the splines off between the hydro and the transmission. So major work needed to be done, and I tried to get by cheap and at least get it home, which it worked, but I got a bigger coupler off of like a 9660 or something from a salvage yard that was longer, and I made it home with it, but I pushed the seal out on the hydro, which it had to come apart anyways. But I remember it was leaking oil, and I'm trying to get up the driveway where I could get it in my yard where I could fix it, because I tried to work out in the field, and that was tough. And I was getting to the top of the driveway, and our farm sits up here. You know, we go up, it's up a driveway uphill. And I was making it up, and you could tell the hydro was starting to run out of oil. And I cranked the steering wheel off, and I nailed the unload auger on the harvester and bent it. So I had to fix the hydro, fix the transmission, fix that unload auger, and we did all that. But the combine was still shot. And I kept it going till, I think, 2012. And then the summer of 2012, I'm like, this thing just is done. There isn't much left of her. And she ran good, and the hydro was good, but the rest of the combine was just, yeah, it was time. But that combine was, I really enjoyed that combine. You know, I had good luck with it. It worked. I picked up a 220 bean head for it along the way, but the dial-o-matic never worked. So you just sit there and watch the little orange ball for the indicator on the head, and drive like that. And that worked. But yeah, the AC never worked in it. And you want to talk about a hot cab, combining beans in that cab with no air conditioning. It was rough. So 2012, I go to get rid of that, and it was kind of funny, because back then I was doing a fair amount of trucking too in the off season, and I was down in Mason City, Iowa, driving. I was delivering at Menards in Mason City, Iowa, and I drove by Brackey Implement, and they had a line of combines out front. They had a really nice 7720, a really nice 8820 Titan II, and not as nice a looking 7720 Titan II. And the 7720 Titan II has always been my favorite combine of all time. That's why my username and everything is Wisconsin Titan II. Because when I was a kid growing up, there were Titan combines around, yellow top Titan combines around, and they weren't common, but there were quite a few, and Titan 2s just weren't as common. And if you ever look at production numbers, there just weren't as many Titan 2 combines because of the, it was the 80s. It was the farm crisis. And they just look cool with the green roof and the Titan 2 on there. And they changed the lettering. The John Deere was written and different. And when I was a kid, I was probably 88. I remember Dad stopped the school bus one day. I was coming back in 5th grade from elementary school, and Dad stopped the school bus at one of the other stops and picked me up to go to Durand Implement in Durand, Wisconsin. It was a cold fall day, and we needed something. I think it was a sediment bowl for John Deere A, but we went down to Durand, and they had a new 7720 Titan 2 out front. And I just fell in love with it. And I remember I bought a Titan 2 hat, and I missed that hat. I wore it right out. But a few years ago, Red Power Stu got me another Titan 2 hat that he had. So
Isn't that hat that your aunt's dog?
No,
Oh,
that was
story.
a different story. But yeah.
Just kidding.
But I wore that, yeah. I loved that hat. So I've always been into Titan 2s. So I go in, I looked at those combines, and the 8820 Titan 2 needed some work, but it was a nice combine. There was something wrong with the shoe. And they were selling it as is or something. And then there was a 7720 Titan. It was a just turbo, yellow top, but it was perfect. And it had the spotlight. There was an optional spotlight that'd go on the roof, like a giant off of a boat spotlight. And that thing was perfect condition. And I looked at it, and I'm like, that's really, really nice, but I wanted that Titan 2. And the Titan 2 it was obviously 30.5s. It had the planetary final drives. It had it had hydraulic rear wheel assist, and it had a bish bin on it. And I was like, this thing is awesome. And it was faded out really bad, but it was just a cool combine. And I'm like, that's the one. Even though it didn't make as much sense to get the one that's not as nice, I was like, yeah, that's the one. And I'll never forget, I went into the dealership, and that salesman in there, I said, hey, I'm wondering about that 7720 Titan 2, right? Or I said something about all those combines out there. I said, you got a bunch of Titan combines out there? And he looked up, he was talking to somebody, and he goes, let's sell you a combine. I bought that 7720 Titan 2, and it was awesome. And I bought it down there in Mason City, FOB, so I needed to haul it. So this was my old Freightliner I had at the time, and you could see she was faded out, but I hauled that Titan 2 home from Mason City. That's the picture in Mason City.
What's FOB mean?
Freight on buyer.
Oh, okay.
So I went and I brought her home very illegally. I had no permits, no calling ahead, getting routes. I just hauled the damn thing. And it was awesome. And then I buffed it out by hand.
Is that your snowball moment?
What?
Just trucking illegally?
You'd have to be way more specific.
Oh. Okay. DOT friends?
No.
Okay.
And actually, I thought I had a better picture of it. Somewhere I do when it was after it was all buffed up and stuff. But you can see part of it with the bish bin on it, and that's when I traded it for the
this way, yeah.
when I traded it for the 9510. That's our daughter with it. Back when she liked hanging out and helping me farm.
Her rain boots.
Yep.
She was everywhere with those boots.
Yeah. But you could see the bish bin on there and everything. And I had bought the 9510, and there's the 9510, the first harvest. The kids.
It's Henry.
Yep, Henry and Anna.
It's just little.
Yeah. that 9510, I'd actually drove it for the previous owner. And it got traded in.
What do you mean you drove it for them? Like custom stuff
Mhm.
or what?
Yeah, I drove it for him, ran it for him. So
Cool.
before I ever planned on buying it. But that 9510s to me were cool. Like, I missed my Titan 2 because they were awesome, but the 9510 is a lot nicer combine. And what was cool about the 9510s, so the 10 series weren't made very long. They were only made 2 years, and they're low production, kind of like the Titan 2. So I was like, well, that's kind of neat. Kind of skipped the 9500, which the 9500 they made a really long time. Which, if you ever want to win like a farm equipment trivia contest, you could say, what was the last model of John Deere Titan combine made, and when was it made? Because believe it or not, the Maximizer combines came out in '88, but they didn't have the side hill yet, so they made the Titan 2, the 6620 Titan 2 side hill, an extra year. So just kind of cool, but yeah, the 10 series Maximizers were neat because they didn't make that many of them, and I really liked that combine. And they had traded it in like early 2014, so the farm economy was still pretty good, but we bought it, I think, the summer of 15, maybe it was even like the fall of 13 they traded in, but they had it on the lot for like well over a year, maybe like a year and a half. And when they traded it in, that combine was it was low hours, and they needed they're like, oh well, this combine's worth a lot of money, so they ran it through the shop and did a ton of stuff to it. Well, then 14 comes around, commodity prices didn't come up, and the market was just bad. So the late summer, early fall of 2015, then I bought the 9510. And
Is that picture right when you bought it? I don't remember.
Because remember, Henry was born in 2015, so that's why he's so little in that picture.
Well, I know when he was born. Sorry, just confirming.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the first fall in harvesting with that. So
Okay.
that was the fall of 2015. And that's been a great combine. And I don't know that I want to upgrade too bad. I guess if for some reason I needed a tax write-off and things were just awesome, I'd love to have an S650, the last Class 5 combine Deere made. Not a 550, but an S650. But I don't know, maybe in a few years we'll either buy like a late 96 60, or I'd like to have a S660 would work. But
Think you'll ever own something 2000 and up in our lifetime?
yeah, that's a 98. I mean,
You're getting there.
our 8225R is a 2010.
I'm a combine. I wasn't specific. I'm sorry.
Our bean head is a 2002. I guess our corn head is a 97,
Can you consider a bean head like
98. It's part of a combine.
It's a different entity.
Oh.
Like absolutely different.
Well,
Like you put your mud tires on. I don't know what people put mud tires on.
we could trade
Separate.
the 9510 to something newer, but I've really kept up with it, and we know what we got. It's got some engine hours on it because that combine was sold new through Tractor Central. At the time, it wasn't Tractor Central, it was MDMA. But they had a deal where it'd go from this guy got it new, and this guy would get it a year old, and this guy would get it 2 years old. So it had like 4 owners. But then the guy that had it before me then kept it for a long time, but he did a fair amount of custom work. So
we're like 5, 6 in, and then we're like, we're 5th or 6th in line. Then we can afford it.
no, not quite.
Okay.
But it has a lot more engine hours than separator hours. So it's got pretty low separator hours on it. And it's not crazy high engine hours, but it'll run a few more years without too many issues, I don't think. And, knock on wood. But I still like driving it. I still like our combine. I got it set up for that we got a late model 925 with head sight that's really nice to run, and we got a 693.
You can never be comfortable letting Anna or setting the kids loose on it.
No, no, someday, but someday I'd like to be able to just sit in the combine and combine all day, and somebody else can haul for me. I've been a one-man show. I've been a one-man show since 1999. I mean, you know that. It's not like, and I'm not like.
Your daughter's getting almost old enough to drive something.
Yeah, she's getting closer. I mean, and face it, combining, but a couple of times I've opened up a field and asked somebody to come run the combine for me. If my dad did once, another friend of mine ran the combine, and both.
You don't ask me to do it. How come? Like
you've got our
time,
kids.
The one time we hit a tree with
digger. The only time I've ever seen a combine plug up during corn harvest was when I let somebody else run the combine. I don't know how they did it. I don't know what happened, but that's why I've just kind of I just do my own thing. So I haul with the, I combine, and then I just haul with the straight truck back to the farm and dump it in the wet bin. Or if it's beans or something, we're going right to the river, I'll unload into the semi. But yeah, at some point, it'd just be nice if I could just sit in the combine all day. And
well, your dad has that, what is it? He got a CDL now. Do you think he'll haul in grain for you?
I don't think he will.
It says coming to you, Ampa. You're going to see it at some point.
Yeah.
It's a job offer.
Is it? Is it? No. I don't know. I'm used to working alone. I've done it for so long.
Well, and Charlie likes riding with you to go drop.
Charlie likes hanging out with me, doing whatever I'm doing farming. But Anna's kind of the farmer of the family, somewhat.
As long as you can stop in the middle and come back to it at a later point.
Yeah, she's not. I don't know. I don't know what'll happen, but yeah. I like combine, and I really like, combine small grains. I can remember, seeing all the custom combine. It was like all those combines out there, and it was always just neat. Something I dreamed about, combine wheat fields, and I almost went on harvest, but I didn't. But Don, in his shop, had a frame picture of, I don't know, I think they were New Holland TR75s or TR85s all in a lineup. I don't know how many of them big. It was a New Holland photo from the brochure or whatever, but he had that frame. That was so cool. So I've always just loved grain harvest. Is fun. Corn is fun to combine. Beans, I don't know. If somebody wanted to combine my beans for me, sometimes it wouldn't bother me. But anyways, but yeah, I hope you guys can handle these. We won't do them too often, but sometimes things come up, and I will give you a video no matter what. I don't know if they'll be any good, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. So yeah, Laura, do you want to add anything?
Did you accomplish all your dreams, your childhood dreams, with your combines?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Got 359 extended hood. That was a big one. I got really cool tractors, and yeah, just to have a combine. It's one thing. Yeah, there's just something cool about being able to combine. Even like any combine is pretty cool. Like a new combine, like you drive by, somebody's got a new combine out in the field, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. You see them a lot with big farms, but like when you see like a 7700 turbo, like Gary Bauer's got a 7700 turbo, and you see that out in the field, that's cool. Obviously, that's not a super expensive thing, but it's just, combines are just cool, and to have a combine and be out there and it's working and combining your crop, if you have a combine and work for it, that's cool. So.
Well, we just drove through an implement, and most of them look like they're on tracks now. What do you think? What do you think the future looks like for combines?
If you don't need tracks, don't have tracks. But, hey, Kaka.
It's a big cat.
It is. It is. She's been around longer than
Longer than Anna. She's
just barely.
going on 13 years.
Yeah. Well, I
So-
guess Kaka says that's enough.
Yeah, she says we're done here.
All right. Well, thanks. Tractor story next week.